I continue my series on the 36 decans of the Zodiac today with Virgo II, the second decan of Virgo. People with planets or points in this part of the zodiac can have a potential for creating beautiful things through hard work. They can be artisans, people who are willing to commit themselves to create beauty in the world. And we're going to see that represented by the planets that are responsible for this part of the zodiac: Saturn, the planet of responsibility, hard work, and commitment, and Venus, the goddess of love and beauty. Of course, Mercury rules the sign as a whole. So, also having a bit of that business acumen and capacity to create gain in your life. That's the name of the Thoth tarot card associated with this decan. We'll also look at the Tree of Life, the Hermetic Kabbalah, the number 9, the Sephirah Yesod foundation is associated with this decan. Finally, we'll talk about Dolly Parton's chart. She has her rising degree in this part of the zodiac, and of course was a prolific musician as well as somebody who worked hard to create things in this world of beauty, not just in the area of music, but also around her nonprofit foundation, which related to trying to bring imagination through reading to children. So we'll see all of that in the upcoming video. There's a lot to unpack. If you enjoy it, like and subscribe. It'll help people find my content. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to bring up the whiteboard I created. I've started doing whiteboards for these talks because it really helps us get a deeper feeling and connect to the energy, to see pictures associated with the various parts of the energy of this sign, right? So first, let's just talk about the sign of Virgo. Uh, Virgo is an earth sign. So all earth signs have to do with the real world. What are we creating or establishing or working with? How are we working the earth in one way or another to create something? And then Virgo is a mutable sign, meaning it has a flexibility and an adaptability to it. People with Virgo energy tend to try to perfect things in the material world. They're constantly tweaking and correcting and wanting to make things make it possible for the things they've created to be their absolute best. That's the Virgo vibe. And of course, Virgo is ruled by the planet Mercury. Mercury was Hermes in the Greek pantheon, the messenger to the gods. He was the little brother to Apollo, the sun god. And so there's a lot, if you read the myths associated with Hermes, it'll give you a feel for the energy of Mercury, this swift moving planet that has a trickster kind of vibe to it. It's very intelligent. People with strong Mercury in their chart can tend to be interested in learning and be very bright, for example. One myth that I always like to point to for Mercury is portrayed in this image here. This is little baby Hermes when he was a young, like an infant, they say. He left the cradle and stole his big brother Apollo's cows, and he went and hid them in a cave and did all kinds of crazy things. That's the trickster energy. But we also see that swift mind and playing tricks in the fact that the way he stole the cattle is he put these shoes on his feet backwards. So the tracks made it look like he was going the other direction when he took the cows. And anyway, Apollo got really mad, went to Zeus, and Zeus, the father, just kind of laughed because he thought it was cute. So that's a little bit of the vibe of Mercury. Mercury energy can also literally have to do with younger siblings as a result of this myth. So then, looking beyond sort of the general energy of Virgo and it having to do with analysis and um, intelligence, trying to structure the world, we can also look at the particular part of Virgo that is associated, or Virgo II, right? The second decan of Virgo. So we can look at each decan or 10 degrees of the zodiac is associated with two decanic rulers. They're planets in addition to the general planet that rules the sign, which is Mercury. We know that Venus, the goddess of love, relationship, harmony, beauty, art, and justice, also rules this 10 degrees of the zodiac under the triplicity system. And then Saturn under the Chaldean order rules as well. And Saturn's all about responsibility, maturity, the reality principle, what's possible in the real world. It can also have to do with hard work and commitment, death and endings and limitations. So if we just riff on that idea a little bit, it'll go a long way to understanding what it might be if you have your rising sign in this part of the zodiac, or if your sun is here, or if you're Mercury or your Venus or Saturn or any planet. What might that mean for you? So, if we take that witty, intelligent business, because sometimes Mercury can have to do with business as well, business acumen. If we take the witty, intelligent, trickster, I want to manifest something in the real world energy of Mercury Virgo, and you add it to Venus, the goddess of love and beauty and creativity and balance, as well as Saturn, that planet that wants to work really hard and be responsible, you get people who want to create beautiful objects and they're willing to really commit themselves to get this done. You know, artisans, musicians like Dolly Parton. We're going to see that in her chart, her Mercury was actually conjunct right next to Venus. When you have Venus and Mercury connected in a birth chart, that can be somebody who's musical. I believe Bruce Springsteen had that aspect as well, because Mercury is how we communicate, and Venus is the goddess of love and beauty. When you put them together, it can be a beautiful voice, right? So here we see in general what through the planetary rulers what this decan is about. But we can flesh this out or get a little deeper around our understanding by looking at the tarot card that's associated with it. And this is where I love to look at images. Just because, you know, planets or knowings, the meanings in an abstract sort of sense doesn't do the same thing as a picture sometimes. So here, if you tried to enter this card, what you see is this very, not just a woman who's attractive, but she is put together. She's balanced. She herself feels like she's occupying space in this really grounded fashion. That's the Virgo energy. She's out in a field. Again, that earthy quality. And you see her hand is on, one hand is on these pentacles that she's created in this beautiful garden with grapes in the background, and the other is holding the falcon. So when we look at that image, we get the sense what we see is the end product. We see the result of all the hard work she did to create those grapes, right? To create this prolific production of beautiful things for the world. And then we also see the discipline of Saturn reflected in that falcon that's in her hand, right? Um, as Rachel Pollack wrote in her, there's a couple books I have that I rely upon for these videos. One is 78 Degrees of Wisdom, and the other, I think, is called, oh, here it is called Tarot Wisdom, which I just love that as well. And so she explains the falcon on her wrist is hooded and under the woman's control. So there's discipline, self-control, and training as part of the energy of this decan. Allows us to develop our full potential. Again, if you know anything about Dolly Parton, she works incredibly hard to perfect and produce the beautiful music to be received by the people. And that has been so, you know, well received, right, by the public. The other thing about this card is we can see that there's a self-awareness that is part of the energy of this middle decan of Virgo. Virgo is the sign of the Virgin. And when we think of the notion of virgin, we have to set aside the notions in contemporary society, which suggests it has to do with whether or not you've had sex, right? And understand that the original meaning of virgin, or the deeper sense, it symbolizes self-containment and sovereignty, representing wholeness and independence that's untouched by or unaltered by external influences. So there's something about the energy of this decan that has to do with I can create this on my own, out of my own connection with the creative force. I am self-contained. There's an imaginal quality to the Nine of Pentacles as well. We're going to see with the Sephirah Yesod, it has to do also with that lunar energy of imagination. So we see this all in the card. The creative force is represented also by the prolific nature of what she has grown and created through hard work, right? Um, and we also see, as Rachel Pollack notes, that she's standing there alone in her garden. And so, to achieve what she has achieved, this woman, she's had to give up normal companionship. And there's this, so that's part of the vibe of this as well. Not that you don't have partners, because if we look at Dolly Parton, we're going to see she's been married her entire, since 1966 or something. But she's very private. And when she goes out and talks about her work or presents things in the world, she does not have her husband at her side. She keeps him sort of separate. And this is her and her own independent and her desire to shine out of her own force in the world is part of the energy of this card as well. Yeah. So I also just wanted to point out, I'm going to hold up the card if you can see it. This is the Thoth Tarot card associated with this decan. The Nine of Discs is what it's called. And here we see that the card is called Gain. So there's also something about when we put in all that hard work and we use our intelligence, that intelligent capacity of Mercury, and the beauty of Venus to create something lovely, that we can have gain in our life. So people with planets or points in this part of the zodiac can also have good fortune around achieving things monetarily, right? So let's then go to the next slide, which shows you the Kabbalah, the tree of life. And I just always I've started bringing this back in so people understand when I talk about Kabbalah, what am I talking about? And it's this, the tree of life represents a mystical diagram that represents the descent of light, divine inspiration into the world. If you think about through the crown chakra and the way in which we're able to manifest through the course of our life by bringing spirit in and then creating things in the world. And so we start always with Keter, which is the divine inspiration. It's sort of the nothingness of the universe. Excuse me, I'm just fixing this. We see the lightning or the light enters and it goes through the different sephirah, which are these, it traces the flow of creative energy from divine source, from Keter all the way down to Malkuth, which is the earthly plane where things are manifested. And this process shows how spiritual concepts sort of take form when we get that divine inspiration, all the steps it needs to go through to go from the ideal of what we imagine into what we're actually able to produce into the world. And so with, boy, I keep bringing that down. When we get to the Sephirah Yesod, we're right at the point where we're creating something into in the world, and where we've created the foundation out of which something can become manifest. And so here we see in this diagram that we go from Had, which would be the number 8, where we're at this point. It's the realm of intellect and analysis and logic, where we're getting ready. We need that intellectual information or that structure in order to create. But then when we get to Yesod, the number 9, it's the realm of the unconscious, dreams, intuition, and emotions. And so if we think of it in terms of Dolly Parton with her rising degree in this number 9, there's something about who she is where she's able to challenge that, or excuse me, channel that intuitive energy about what to create, use her intellect, and then bring it forth into the world. And so Yesod serves as a foundation that connects the higher spheres to the physical world. When we move from Had to Yesod, it involves integrating the rational mind with the deeper intuitive aspects of the self. It's about undertaking structured thoughts and translating them into emotional resonance or subconscious understanding. I say all of that because Dolly Parton wouldn't be successful if she didn't have a way of translating for the people this deep emotional understanding of what it is to be a human being, right? And if you listen to any of her music, you see that she translates a great deal of her own difficulty, suffering growing up poor, like dirt poor, and into songs that move human beings that are able to connect with that on an emotionally resonant level, right? And so let's then look at Dolly Parton's chart to finish up. And I want to spend a little more time with this than just talking about her rising degree being in that 14 part of Virgo. But we'll start with that. So, with her second decan in Virgo, it embodies that discipline and self mastery that I was talking about, that capacity to use the Saturnine energy of the second decan, that capacity to commit to hard work, to create something that will be beautiful, that Venus energy of the second decan for the world. And if we think about her rise from rural poverty to stardom, you can see that falcon on the wrist energy of the tarot card. She had to work long and hard and be quite disciplined in order to rise from her circumstances that she was born into to become the powerhouse that she really is in the world, and to have that gain and success that's exemplified by the Thoth card, the Nine of Discs. So she built her empire with focus and determination against Saturn, staying true to her values. That's also a Venusian thing, and embodying the virgin archetype of self containment and sovereignty, right? Parton's life also reflects the energy of the ninth Sephira Yesod. In 1995, she started a nonprofit called the Imagination Library, right? And yes, it is all about the imagination. It's got that lunar quality to promote literacy and foster a love of reading among young children. She carved her own path and she's fiercely independent. She stands alone in that garden, as I mentioned before. Even though she's married, she rarely appears in public with her husband, right? So, like the woman in the Nine of Pentacles, in mastering her craft, she stands firmly in that garden of her own creation, the music she's created over the course of a lifetime, right? So that's what I wrote up to kind of try and bring it all together. But then let's look at her chart for a second because it's fascinating. Here's that Mercury with Venus in her fifth house of creativity. That's where Bruce Springsteen, I believe, has his Mercury and Venus, as well as other artists, right? That fifth house is all about what I create in the world. That's where her sun is as well. All this energy is in Capricorn. Capricorn works hard to achieve. So in astrology, we have this idea of rule of three. If we see an energy replicated in a chart more than once, we really know this is part of who the person is. So first we see that she's got all this energy in Capricorn, suggesting she's going to work hard to achieve and create real things in the world. Capricorn is an earth sign about achievement. Then we see her rising degree is right there in the middle of Virgo, which is again all about hard work and commitment to create. It mimics the energy. And then we also see she has her Saturn exactly conjunct Mars in the 11th house of the collective, of groups, organizations. Saturn, Mars, I always call that the signature of the general. People who have Saturn, Mars conjunct in their chart have this capacity to make strategic choices over a long period of time, to commit themselves to hard work. Mars is like putting your foot on the gas. It wants to move forward, but Saturn restrains and disciplines and molds that Martian energy for the sake of achieving something in the world. So we have all three of these pieces of her chart to show her energy. So I just thought that was fascinating. Astrology never ceases to blow my mind. I hope it blows your mind too. So if you have your rising degree in Virgo, or if you don't know, you could always look up on astroseek.com. I'll link a video I have which shows you how to bring up your birth chart. Feel free to leave a comment and see if this video resonates with you. You could also have your sun or Venus or any of those other planets there. And yeah, feel free to share. And if you enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel. I love doing this. I love sharing astrology with the world. So I hope you all have a great day. Thanks.